Former wardens and prison guards from the Metropolitan Detention Center, where Diddy is currently being held, have shared details about his experience. Reports suggest that Diddy's cell is under constant surveillance after an incident in which he reportedly attempted to harm himself.
Combs isn't the only famous inmate to be housed there. We had Sam Bankman-Fried there, R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell. They were all inmates there. Sean Combs is being kept away from the general inmate population. You say his fame makes him a target.
Yeah, sure. And not necessarily at the MDC only. I mean,
anywhere.
Yes, in my humble estimation, his life, his safety is in jeopardy in any correctional lockup right now. If it is true, as reported, that he is housed in the special housing unit, it's important to note that the special housing unit is a lockdown, 24-hour lockdown unit. The MDC Brooklyn is a high-rise. The vast majority of the floors are general population floors, but the special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown facility. So this is for Mr. Combs' protection. His incredible worldwide celebrity combined with the allegations, the charges now, and indictment, of course, of acts of violence against women make him a very attractive target.
All right.
They need to safeguard him.
This is a man accustomed to the very finest. He was arrested at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York City, known for its luxury suites and exceptional food and wine, where one-bedroom suites start at $3,000 a night. He was probably staying in something larger. What is life like for him now at the MDC?
I would say 100% total culture shock. The MDC is, I've used the word austere a lot, but it is. It's austere, it's strict, it's impersonal, it's cold, and it is a very tough place to be detained.
Diddy is set to spend the next 6 months at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, New York, with his trial scheduled for May 5, 2025. Reports indicate that he is having a difficult time in custody. He has been placed in solitary confinement and is kept away from the general population due to threats on his life. Allegedly, individuals Diddy once blackmailed are now targeting him. The situation is further complicated by the nature of the charges against him, including allegations of child abuse, which could put him at severe risk in prison. Inmates convicted of similar offenses are often targeted, and reports suggest that those accused of such crimes can face deadly consequences, especially within the first few months of their sentences. Diddy is reportedly afraid for his safety.
Well, Natasha and Steve, for the first time in his life, Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on federal sex trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section. There is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins. MDC is so bad, federal judges have questioned the harsh conditions for those here awaiting trial. So bad, I was here 2 years ago during a cold spell, reporting on detainees with no heat, pounding on windows for help. There was even a congressional inquiry. But take the word of a former inmate I spoke with who goes by Esco.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
The inmates that you're surrounded around, just in general, a lot of them are brought up on pretty heavy federal indictments, right? So just in terms of the atmosphere there, it's just certainly one that no one wants to be in.
Combs was placed in a special housing unit and on suicide watch, the standard protocol for high-profile celebrity detainees. The disgraced mogul was denied bail by 2 separate judges. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, asked the court to transfer him to the federal detention section at the Essex County Jail, but the judge deferred to the Bureau of Prisons. Federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton says lockdown can mean a lot less time to prepare your defense.
In terms of fighting their case, it just makes it all the more difficult, because now in terms of you being able to communicate with your attorney, you are at the realms of just what's going on with respect to the facility. Is it on lockdown? Is the facility letting visitors in?
Detainees on suicide watch wear tearaway paper hospital-style garments and rubber shower shoes. The isolation may be the worst part for Combs. It's being done for his protection in the violence-prone facility. He will have no bunkie.
He's probably not going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me, where I will go in, I will go through process and intake, and then they'll assign me a cell, and I'll have a bunkie or a cellmate, and I'll be in population.
For him to be able to get out at this point, it just doesn't look good.
Details about Diddy's life behind bars have emerged, with sources close to the situation revealing that he is nearing his breaking point. So far, Diddy has struggled to make any friends and spends nearly 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Reports also indicate that Diddy attempted to bribe inmates for access to their phone privileges. However, after prosecutors became aware of his actions, he was forced to stop. Allegedly, Diddy had been using these phone calls to contact victims and attempt to interfere with witnesses.
What does Diddy's foreseeable time behind bars look like? He reportedly only gets 1 hour daily of recreation and 3 showers a week. He's served breakfast, lunch, and dinner that is delivered to his cell. But instead of extravagant meals he was once accustomed to, he can expect foods like egg noodles, cereal, chili, peas, and if needed, there are reportedly vegetarian options as well. But if those foods don't work, MDC Brooklyn's commissary list has a list of additional foods and snack items, including a 6-pack of Hershey bars for $7.05, peanut butter for a little more than $3, stuffed chicken with rice for $5.75, plus more options. Diddy was once a staple at New York's biggest fashion event of the year, the Met Gala, and a frequenter of fashion weeks across the globe. Now will be forced to wear clothes not from haute couture, but instead a switch up to essentially sweats. For extra clothes, he can purchase a sweatshirt for a little more than $16, New Balance sneakers for about $55, boxer briefs for a little more than $6, plus a bath towel and washcloth set for about $12. And while confined to a cell for 23 hours a day, which is a huge difference from throwing now infamous parties, to pass the time, Diddy can purchase an MP3 player for a little under $90. But according to reports, he has a spending limit of $160, a huge downgrade from the millions he was seemingly spending prior to his arrest.
Former inmate Larry Levine, who has served time at the Metropolitan Detention Center, claims that Diddy's life is in danger, with several inmates reportedly targeting him. Levine suggests it's only a matter of time before something happens to Diddy. He also points out that Diddy, who is used to the luxury of 5-star hotels, is now facing a serious psychological toll. And eyewitnesses have reported that Diddy has lost a significant amount of weight and appears to be struggling with depression.
So breaking news right now, Larry, I am just getting word. People Magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they called his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that I guess some warden told you this. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units and they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white collar people. And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody's gonna get a lot of street credibility out of this. People that are doing substantial time that know they're never getting out, they'll just kill a guy, no questions asked.
You think that they'd suck up to him because he's got a lot of money, and if he ever does get the commissary options, he would be able to help them.
Some people do because
I got to wrap it real quick.
Okay, some people do think that Diddy can help them, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a
Okay.
Marshals inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth, I don't know, several times a week, 6 Marshals to do
To
it.
Jersey.
He's out of luck.
The sensitive information Diddy may possess has made him a target, drawing comparisons to the situation with Jeffrey Epstein. Several people who know Diddy personally have claimed that he doesn't have the mental or emotional strength to survive in prison, with his recent meltdown serving as evidence of that. Allegedly, Diddy was heard crying and yelling, asking guards to let him out. Despite being in custody for only a few months, it seems he is already reaching his breaking point.
According to a report from the Daily Mail, that's why Diddy had a breakdown. A person close to him apparently said, quote, spending the holidays behind bars was a nightmare for him. If we're to believe all this, Diddy had a meltdown in his cell and begged the guards to take him to the hospital for observation, but they refused. This same friend or person told the Daily Mail, quote, he eventually managed to calm himself down with the meditation technique he's been using while he's been behind bars. It took him a few hours of deep breathing and focusing to get out of the bad space he was in, but he finally managed it. This isn't the first time Diddy's mental health has come into question while he's been at MDC. When he first arrived, he was on suicide watch, which the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections describes as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation. Diddy's suicide watch was only temporary, though. He was housed in a special protective unit of the jail after that for the first few weeks of his stay. But Diddy right now is in Gen Pop, meaning general population, the place where majority of the inmates stay. And that's where he apparently had this meltdown.
Diddy's lawyers have requested that he be moved to a different correctional facility, citing his discomfort with his current conditions, but the judge has denied their request. Diddy's situation appears to be deteriorating with each passing day, and while the threat of another inmate harming him is a concern, there are also fears that Diddy might harm himself. Gene Deal, who reportedly lived with Diddy for years, has spoken out, saying that he knows the kind of person Diddy is. According to Deal, Diddy has always lived a life of luxury, and it's unlikely he will be able to endure prison life for long. Press.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you knowing Diddy personally, do you think it's possible he might take his life?
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit suicide. He do an Epstein.
Why do you think he didn't pull a Russell Simmons and leave the country?
They was watching him, bruh. They was watching him. And then I think that he had to turn over his passport. Even if you own your own private jet, they have a system up there whereas that they supposed to check your passport and anything that you need to fly as if you were flying commercial. He's suffering the consequence, and I don't feel bad for him at all. Because people was trying to talk to him. People was trying to tell him. You couldn't pull him by the coat and let him know anything. You understand? They messed up the game, brother. When he put that shit out with them, money, power, respect, it ain't never been like that. It ain't never been like that. You got your respect in the street that gave you your power, that brought you your money. Totally different thing. He let that money, power, and respect go to his head, but he had it ass backwards. So do I care what happened? Nah. He got enough money to buy his way out of this. So we think.
So when you look at that video of him pacing around and he's looking worried, and you knowing him, do you think it's possible that he might commit suicide?
when you're a narcissist, there's always a possibility because you're suffering. But I don't think that he could see himself in a cage. I don't think he could see himself behind those bars in those type of situations. It's too many real dudes that dislike him. But then again, there's a lot of real dudes that need help. And him being behind bars, he could probably help them.
Diddy's legal team has put together a $50 million bail package and, according to court documents, plans to hand over the entire family's passports. In an effort to secure his release, Diddy is even offering his Miami mansion, valued at approximately $48 million, as collateral. Despite these substantial offers, Judge Ain Submanin has denied Diddy's bail request, meaning that, for now, Diddy will remain in custody with no release in sight.
What do you think about that counter argument? Because his team has said we're going to put together the proposed bail package, a $50 million bond, co-signed by him, his mom, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. It's going to be secured by the equity in his property in Miami, Florida. Home detention, his passport will be surrendered. The government said that's insufficient. They said, look at the charges, look at the weight of the evidence that I just mentioned. They said they have allegations that he and his associates were trying to tamper with witness testimony last year so that they wouldn't cooperate with the government. What do you take away about who has the stronger argument in terms of bail?
Well, I think his counsel has done the best they possibly can. I think bringing him there voluntarily is very smart. Starts them out on the right foot. But I think the last thing that you just mentioned, the interfering with witnesses.
That's the allegation, yeah.
Yeah, if that's true, or I should say, if there's real indicia that happened, I think that might tip the scales in favor of not letting him out pending trial, because I think, and you know this, I think judges take an extraordinarily dim view of that. And that might be the factor that tips the scale against him. But I think as far as a tactic, I think it was very smart to do what they did and to say, look, you know, he's here. You didn't have to track him down. He's got a real defense here. He's doing everything right, at least right now. I'm not sure it's going to be enough at the end of the day.
During a raid on Diddy's Miami mansion, federal officers reportedly uncovered a disturbing collection of evidence that has escalated the charges against him. Among the items seized were hidden cameras, sex toys, bondage gear, lingerie, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, all allegedly linked to events referred to as freak-offs. One officer has even claimed that Diddy's actions are more egregious than those of Jeffrey Epstein.
For years, P. Diddy's gotten a hall pass. He's actually created his own kingdom where he makes his own rules, and you got to follow his rules or you get penalized. And guess what, Laura? He's now in a federal penitentiary, and for the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court. 90% of federal criminal indictments brought down are pled out, right? A plea deal is brought. And of the only 10% left, 90% of those defendants that go to trial, they lose. So he is looking at a daunting uphill battle to fight these horrible charges.
Now, Brian, one of the DHS agents involved in this raid on his Miami mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that, in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster.
Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women, that he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs. That's been alleged in the indictment. And that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutors got to prove. And if you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his pleasure island. Who else? Who went? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs?
Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9 for a likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down, Laura. That's an important point here, because he's being charged with racketeering and conspiracy. You're going to have, well, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You're going to possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be, they're already talking about this. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? If you've got some music moguls that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs, then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise.
Diddy's friends outside of prison are reportedly just as concerned about his situation. So far, Jay-Z, J-Lo, and Ashton Kutcher have all been named in lawsuits connected to Diddy, while his own sons are facing legal action as well. Jennifer Lopez, who dated Diddy in the late 90s, is once again caught up in controversy linked to him. This time, the situation involves a rape allegation made by Cardello Smith, who claims that Diddy assaulted him in 1997 during a party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. Smith alleges that Jennifer Lopez is a key witness in the case and will be called to testify. According to Smith, Diddy recorded the alleged assault, and J-Lo helped him cover it up.
But going back to Cardello Smith's filing, his notice says that Jennifer Lynn Lopez, a.k.a. J-Lo, a.k.a. Jenny from the Block, quote, will be called as a material witness and expert to Sean Combs' viewing, possession, and distribution of his sexual assault upon the plaintiff in 1997 and the orders of defendant Sean Combs forcing Jennifer Lopez to remain silent about the videotaped sexual assault of plaintiff by defendant. Plaintiff states that the material witness Jennifer Lynn Lopez, also known as J-Lo and Jenny from the Block, was engaged in a relationship with the defendant Sean Combs during 1999 and 2001, and that the sexual assault of the plaintiff was recorded, distributed, and held by the defendant at his New York residence and recording studio. And during the relationship with Jennifer Lopez, she was made privy to this video that was taken by Sean Combs and his employee Kirk Burrows. She, J-Lo, has known this video existed and was in existence and took no action to make it known to anyone in law enforcement, and that she was even questioned by New York Police Detective Derek Palmer about this matter, and that the report will show that her answers to this tape was and still remains a resounding yes to its existence. And again, Cardello Smith writes that he wants to call Officer Derek Palmer as a witness because he says Palmer is the one who questioned Lopez and believes that he will have testimony that could help his case. Now, as I mentioned, Diddy's legal team has called for this entire case to be thrown out. Cardello Smith has filed a massive response to that request that totaled more than 200 pages. Probably half of it was just straight up copies of case law that seems to support his arguments, word for word. It's something out of like a legal textbook. There's so much to slog through, but I kind of want to give you some of the highlights. So first, in addition to the claims of rape and a cover-up, Cardello Smith also claims and alleges that Combs was violent towards his loved ones. At times, Cardello Smith addresses alleged threats against his family. Other times, he says Combs actually caused serious injuries to his brother. His response reads, defendant used threats of murder to force the plaintiff to not bring the case to any court of law enforcement until the homes of the defendant were raided by Homeland Security, that the plaintiff knew it was a safe time to bring the case, and that is why we are here at this juncture. And Cardello Smith argued that fear for his own safety and the safety of his family is one of the main reasons that he waited so long to report the alleged rape and says that that reason alone should override any issue with the statute of limitations, that these claims might otherwise be time barred. And he also argues that while he's been in prison, fellow inmates and prison guards have threatened him on behalf of Sean Combs.
Jay-Z's legal troubles continue to mount, with lawsuits now targeting him, his music label, and his legal team. Recently, Jay-Z's legal team was accused of engaging in bribery. The lawyer handling the case against Diddy has claimed that Jay-Z's team was impersonating federal officers, using fake badges to harass victims and pressuring them to lie. Diddy's life behind bars is certainly turning into a nightmare.
That case, while maintaining he'd let the matter settle itself in court. But now in a new lawsuit, a Texas man is claiming Jay-Z's lawyers are bribing people to sue Busby and his law firm. This 13-page lawsuit was filed on January 3rd in Harris County, Texas, and the plaintiff in the filing is being represented by none other than Busby's law firm, who filed the suit on his behalf. Now, Jose Maldonado, who is the plaintiff in this suit, is suing Jay-Z's attorneys and his company Rock Nation, but not Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z himself. According to the lawsuit, the defendants in this suit are Marcy Bryan Croft, her law firm MJ Legal, Rock Nation, and the law firm who is representing Jay-Z, Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan. They allege the defendants conspired to obstruct justice by engaging in shadowy operatives to illegally get more than 24 current and former clients of Busby law firm to turn around and sue them. The suit claims Rock Nation is financing this alleged effort, while attorneys Marcy Croft and the law firm Quinn Emanuel are orchestrating this whole thing. According to the suit, the defendants' agents were pretending to work for the state of Texas and allegedly flashed fake badges, which the suit says wasn't very smart or careful, but also illegal. The suit states the defendant's agents offered as much as $10 grand to a former client to sue the Busby law firm, but the so-called agents were allegedly caught on audio tape red-handed. The suit claims attorney Marcy Croft, who is a lawyer but also a member of Team Rock, was orchestrating that whole effort. Then in another recording, those agents were describing in great detail the alleged criminal conspiracy. The suit claims they went so far to admit the lawsuits would be reported in the press, and some former clients already accepted money to join that alleged effort. As I mentioned, Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, isn't named as a defendant in the lawsuit. However, the suit claims Rock Nation and Jay-Z are synonymous, given the mogul is the founder and chairman. The lawsuit acknowledges Busby's law firm filed the rape lawsuit against Jay-Z in New York federal court, and as a result, Jay-Z sued Busby's law firm in Los Angeles state court. But the suit claims while all of that legal back and forth was going on, Jay-Z's attorneys who represent himself and his Rock Nation denied in open court and in the press their involvement in the alleged scheme. He claims the defendants used him as a pawn. He alleges on behalf of Marcy Croft 2 people attempted to contact him many times and went so far as to go to what they believe to be Maldonado's home. Instead, they went to his dad's house and allegedly identified themselves as federal officers. After realizing they were at the wrong home, they continued to contact Maldonado, and Maldonado claims they were pushy. Once they got in touch with him, he claims those individuals said they were with the state, and they were putting together a lawsuit on behalf of Marcy Croft and the company she worked for. The suit alleges Croft said she would assign Maldonado's case to someone who could get him a lot of money. Instead, Maldonado contacted the Busby law firm, and now they're suing for solicitation and civil conspiracy. In a statement to the Houston Chronicle, Busby said, quote, "The conduct alleged by Mr. Maldonado is illegal and unethical. We know investigators have gone all over the United States illegally contacting our former clients to try to entice them with money to sue our firm. According to Mr. Maldonado, we now know who is behind this effort. We won't be intimidated nor deterred in our important work. I expect more lawsuits will follow as we continue to hear former clients report this egregious conduct," end quote. But Marcy Croft fired back against the allegations, saying the lawsuit reeks of desperation. She also told the Houston Chronicle, quote, "For over 25 years, I've dedicated my career to exposing and dismantling networks of fraud and manipulation. I didn't ask to be a part of this fight, but now that he's dragged me into it, he should know that I'm not someone who backs down. Mr. Busby should be worried. Truth and justice are on my side, and I have every intention of holding him accountable."
Diddy's life behind bars is certainly turning into a nightmare. The lawyer handling the case against Diddy has claimed to press a ballot that would be unavailable to anyone recruited. The lawyer handling the case against Diddy has claimed to press a ballot that it would be unavailable to anyone recruited. The lawyer handling the case against Diddy has claimed to press a ballot that would be unavailable to anyone on earth. From the constant threats in the jail to the mental toll of solitary confinement,